Hello, this is John T. Brown, johntbrown.com. This is a design for a plane. This is for the short I'm doing, a snow story. So I think this is going to be the only prop I'm going to design for this particular short, and do a tutorial about it. So here we go. So I'm doing my roughs in Photoshop. This is a plane that Buck is going to fly at the beginning of the short. So what I wanted to do here, I went through a couple different versions when I did my roughs. One that looked a little bit more like kind of a biplane, and then one that looked more like a jet. And so I went through a couple of different versions, and I decided upon this one just because I thought it was a little more interesting. I wanted it to look a little bit like a winged animal, that sort of thing, but I didn't necessarily want a large body. So I did kind of a little bit of a rocket ship kind of a body, then with some long wings. So I designed it much like I do with the character designs. I designed it with a couple of different views in mind. This is going to be a top view, and then I believe I'm doing a back view of it, just so I can kind of see what the engines look like. So that's the cockpit right there. He's going to sit right in there, and I believe he's got his little dog. His dog's going to sit in there with him. So you can see I did it fairly rough in Photoshop, and I'm only kind of paying attention to the one side, because the nice thing about having it digital, I can copy and flip it, which is what I believe I'm going to do up here in the future of this video. So this whole process, I think, of drawing it out took me about, I don't know, all told it probably took me a couple hours to draw it all out, and then I've condensed it all into about 8 or 9 minutes. So there you go. I'm kind of resizing it, reshaping it, much like I do the turnaround. I'm fairly specific. You can see those measurement lines, fairly specific about the front view to the side view, just so that I can design it with an eye towards consistency. So yeah, there you have it. I'm getting a little bit excited about doing the animation. I'm almost to the animation stage here of this short. So I've got a few rough storyboards for it, but I think the next stage in these videos is going to be to kind of think about the storyboard. So there you have it. I don't know what else to say. He is going to be at this apparatus, this little plane at the beginning of the short, and then what I'm going to do is he's going to have an unfortunate incident with it, and then it'll probably be not so much in the rest of the film. So I kind of thought, you might have guessed that, like, between his character designs and his little ship here, and I think he's going to have a couple little gadgets as well. He's kind of like a little Johnny Questy kind of character. That's a little bit what I took inspiration from for this whole kind of short. It's going to be a little adventure story. He's going to run into some cool little things, cool little obstacles, that sort of thing. His first obstacle is going to be with the plane here. So yeah, so it can be a little bit tedious drawing some stuff in Photoshop. I always tell my students who get a little bit disheartened, there are times in which the process of animation, the process of design is a little bit tedious. This part I really like. I really kind of like the designy process. It does tend to get a little bit dry if you don't kind of make your decisions and kind of stick with them. I could have designed this plane a million times, and I probably did about 4, 5, 6 little different rough drawings of the plane before I decided on this last little design that I have here. And so at this point, with all my characters, there's definitely things that can be improved. There's definitely things that I wish I had done differently, but at some point you have to kind of put it to bed, put it to rest. And I'm kind of at this stage with my characters, and also this little plane that he's dealing with. I've got one other character to design, but I kind of want to keep that character a little bit of a secret. Woohoo! So just maybe for my own entertainment, I guess. So like I said, you get a little bit sick of drawing the same thing over and over again. It's really important at this stage, the design stage, to kind of lock it, and then you can move on with the next stage, which is going to be my storyboard stage. So hopefully I have these designs fairly well locked. I've got the color palettes fairly well worked out, and I kind of know where I'm going with them. And then I can kind of allow myself the opportunity then to think more about story and think more about how my characters are going to react in certain situations. So this is the final cleaned up line that I'm dealing with here for the plane in Photoshop. Again, I want to try and simplify as much as possible prior to the animation stage. So that's what I'm doing here. And my lines are not the greatest or the most perfect. That doesn't necessarily matter at this point. I'm probably going to build this plane. I'm going to draw this plane with a vector line. I mean, I kind of like the way it looks here in Photoshop, but I might redraw it again with a vector line. I'm not exactly sure. I'm kind of winging this as I go, so I don't know exactly what program I'm going to use. Available to me, I have Photoshop. I could do my animation in Photoshop using the Photoshop timeline. I could utilize Adobe Animate, or I could utilize Toon Boom. So, and I might do a combination of a few of those. I don't necessarily want to work in After Effects. I'm not the greatest at After Effects. It's something that I want to try and learn this summer. But for purposes of this film, I'll probably stick to one of the three I mentioned. So there's a bunch of low-cost animation softwares and all that kind of stuff, but I do have the Creative Cloud, so I can use any of the Adobe products, and I also have an older version of Toon Boom. So you can see here that I'm kind of copying and pasting these different elements. I don't necessarily want to work harder than I have to. And if something's going to be uniform, you might as well reuse it. And I mean, I'm drawing and redrawing stuff all the time, and so you can see it's a process. That's why it takes a lot of time to kind of do this kind of stuff. So I'm liking the final design of it. I think it's fun. It looks like it'd be a cool little working jet. So and I had fun doing it. Like I said, it's nice. It's important to kind of segment your thinking a little bit. Like I segmented it in that, I'm going to do my roughs. I'm going to kind of have fun with my roughs, and then I'm going to do my cleaned up line. And that way, if my roughs are fantastic, you know what I mean, then that's great. If my roughs are not to the best of my ability, and if the roughs aren't clean enough, it makes the cleanup process a little more difficult. If the roughs are really tight, it makes the cleanup process a lot more enjoyable. So what I like to do is I like to get my roughs to the point where I don't necessarily have to think about my line quality. I have to think about my line quality, but I don't necessarily have to think about the structure of it. So that's what we got going on here. And then the next step in the process here is I'm going to color it. So what I did for the color is I brought up some of the other characters or all the characters, and I want a palette that's going to kind of agree with them. So I like that orange from his helmet. I don't necessarily want to overuse it, but I kind of was thinking more kind of earth tones in the in this, kind of make it a little bit owl-like. It's kind of looking a little bit owl-like as it is. So then I just chose a color palette that would go along with that. Coloring is fairly easy. Obviously, in Photoshop, I've done for a couple of the other characters in this, where I'm just slapping a layer underneath, and then I'm testing out the color a little bit. I wanted to stick with basically 3 to 4 colors in my palette for each element. So in this one, I'm kind of sticking to oranges and earth tones. So and it's fairly easy to color it. I don't necessarily want to deal a lot with gradients or anything, because I am going to be animating this 2D kind of hand-drawn frame by frame. So I don't necessarily want to encumber it with a lot of detail in either my line work or my coloring. So this was fun. I really enjoyed doing this. I was a prop designer for a little bit in studios and all that kind of stuff. So this stuff comes kind of naturally to me. Hopefully it looks like that. So there you have it. This is the plane for the Snowstory, Buck's plane. And if you want to see more, check me out on YouTube or johntbrown.com. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later. Bye.